see. Yeah, I lost track of time, but yes, we are preparing to live stream right now.
Mine says
Stand
it's going
by.
live. Hey, everybody, we're live. So.
All right, looks like we are also live as well. Happy Friday, everybody. Hope you all have been having a really great week. I think we're on what, week 7 now of social distancing and quarantining and such. But anyways, as you can see, I'm here again with Alex Dykes from Alex on Autos, Roman Mica from TFL, and a new guest. This is Stefan from MotorTrend. What is your position at Stefan or at MotorTrend again, Stefan?
So my official position is associate online editor, but I wear many hats because I do news. I do news a lot of the time. I do the buyer's guide pages online. I'm the guy maintaining that. I do reviews. I've also done SUV of the year and car of the year. So I wear many hats at MotorTrend.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you all so much for joining us as well. So we're going to be doing another live chat here today, kind of just talking about our weeks, talking about a few topics. So if you guys have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section and we'll do our best to answer that. Alex is also live streaming as well from his channel. So be sure to visit his channel, Alex on Autos as well. And you guys can either ask here or...
And can I do a shout out? We're live streaming, but it's not me.
I think it's Andre, right? Well, Roman, you got a big team.
Andre, Nathan, and Ken are doing the what truck should I buy? There it is, Joe. So if you want truck advice, head on over to TFL now, and they're live streaming the Friday show about answering your truck questions. So there's my promo.
Yep. And a shout out to all of my people that are live now. So you can feel free to super chat. We'll try and get to your questions. If you super chat Sofian or super chat me, we will attempt to try and prioritize your questions more or less, but it's kind of a little free form here. And a good looking office there, Roman. I just noticed the new place and the wall behind you there.
Yeah.
We got some new offices, and unfortunately, we can't use them. So that's not the good news because we're all working from home. So me and Tommy are in here in these offices that, you know, are meant for like 10 people. It's just me and Tommy bouncing around. So yeah, that's good use of TFL funds there. But what are you going to do? You know, it is what it is.
So what do you guys...
Let's dive into your first questions there, Sofian.
Yeah. So I guess I wanted to... It's been a week since I last talked to you guys. What have you all been up to? Anything? What are your current projects? Roman, I think you guys had a video that I saw you guys posted between the CX-5 and the Santa Fe. That one was pretty cool.
Yeah, we thank you for noticing that. Tommy did a slip test, and I'll show you what cars we have. Hold on, here, let me show you. We got 2 really cool cars right now, and you'll recognize one of these. So this is the window. Can you see the 2 cars?
Yeah. Oh, look at that! This 2020 is 2021 Supra and the Mini E or the Cooper SE.
Yep. And we have another Supra. Cool color. That's a 4-cylinder. That's a 4-cylinder, and they send us a 6-cylinder as well.
Okay.
So we're pretty excited to have 2 Supras at the offices and an electric Mini. Thank you for noticing that video. We do a thing called the Loveland Trials. We call it the world's toughest electric car test, where we drive from here to the top of the Loveland Pass and back. And we took those 2 hybrids up the Loveland Trials, and that video publishes this weekend to see which of them is more fuel efficient. So any guesses? Honda Civic or RAV4 hybrid? Both hybrids. Which one did better?
Ooh.
RAV4 would be my guess.
And by how much?
Oh. At least 4 mpg.
It was more than 4, and I'm not going to tell you. You have to watch how much. It was quite shocking.
Yeah. I'm going to guess RAV4 too, just because Toyota's hybrid systems are a lot more better. Have had more time in the oven than Honda's hybrid systems in general.
I'd say in that, especially because of that particular test, the Honda system is going to spend so much time in serial mode that it's going to be efficiency is going to take a dive.
Yeah. Roman, I was really impressed with the video Tommy did with the slip tests. I was not expecting the RAV4's 4-wheel drive system to fail like that, or not really fail, but it couldn't get out of the 3-wheel roller test, which surprised me.
Yeah, I think it still is good to have a drive shaft.
It was a hybrid, right?
Yeah, it's good to have a drive shaft actually from the front wheels to the rear wheels, which the RAV4 does not, but the Civic does. So. Yeah, that was quite surprising. So it's been a cool week. I had 2 Supras pulled up and this morning, and we went and took them to the track. I gave him to our friend Paul, who's a race car driver, the former Stig on Top Gear USA, and he took him around, and we saw which one is faster.
Okay, that actually answers my next question. I'm glad to hear that the track is open that you guys use. So
Yay.
it seems like things are starting to open up, or at least I'm noticing in my area that traffic is picking up on the roads. It seems like people are, with the nice weather coming in, they're just bored. They're just bored, and everyone's starting to get out.
So Colorado, let's go through everyone. So Colorado, the governor opened up end of the month. But now it's weird because it's based by not just that the state's open, but counties are open and some are closed. And then some cities and counties that are open are closed. And then some counties where it should be open, they're, you know, it's just this patchwork. So you could drive across a county line and go from being shut in to being open. It's really weird.
Right.
How about you, Alex? What's happening in California?
Pretty similar. They've extended the shelter in place, but they've loosened some of the rules. But people in Los Angeles weren't obeying things, and specifically in Orange County, so they had to close all their beaches again. And, but you know, I got a new fun toy. There's my new toy there with my older toy.
There's the other side of Alex on autos right there. Yeah. Alex on power equipment.
Yeah,
I love your Husqvarna.
There we go.
Hard hat there, Alex. Pretty cool.
Yeah, just you know, embracing all the logos available, and the fun project now is I always said, I promised Rob that, you know, one day I would buy him a Rolls, and I bought him 12. You know, 12 of those. See, it wasn't quite the Rolls he was after, but you know, hey, whatever, we can power the house.
Alex, what are you driving this week?
So we've gone down to 2 cars, thank God, because 4 was blowing my mind. That was blowing my mind. We have a Jeep Cherokee high altitude and a Mazda masquerading as a Toyota.
Oh, the Yaris thing, the Mazda.
The Yaris thing.
The Toyota Yaris. Is the hatchback or the sedan?
We have the hatch.
Okay, it's a cute little car, but yeah. It's a very confusing car.
It is.
And Stefan, what are you driving this week?
So I just got out of the X1 and I'm in a Civic Si right now.
Okay. Ooh, very fun. Good comparisons with your Veloster N that you own as well.
R-Spec. R-Spec, because I didn't get an N. N was way too rushed. Bro.
Oh, just an R-Spec. Okay.
Yeah, I just went with an R-Spec because the N was just, this is not going to, the N would kill my back in LA roads.
That is true.
That is a problem.
That is true.
What's happening in LA? What's LA like right now? Is it getting busier or is it still pretty open?
In certain parts of LA, there's some traffic, but here I'm in Eagle Rock, so north of downtown, so it's not too bad. But if you go down West LA, it's, you know, picking up a little bit. Still not as bad as your typical LA traffic, but once this all opens up again, I bet you it's gonna immediately go from totally okay to just jam-packed the next day.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, I guess let's get started on some of the topics here I wanted to talk about. We'll start with the topic that you wanted to talk about, Alex, since you've got the Jeep Cherokee this week.
Yes.
One of the questions or one of the comments we see every time we do either a Jeep product or an FCA product or even some of the Honda products is there's the ZF 9-speed automatic, the one that's transversely mounted for front drive applications and its reliability. You know, you read in the forums all the time about how those transmissions are garbage and they break down and people report problems. You know, obviously we don't really experience that because we just drive them for a week and we just notice they don't shift very well. But what are your impressions, Alex, on that 9-speed? Have they started to address how the shift quality of it, at least on the recent one?
Yeah, so like I've got a bunch of random thoughts, and I don't know where the answer to any of these is. So, you know, the transmission. First off, I'd start with the physical design of the transmission, which is very unique. So it's the only transmission in the world in manufacturing that uses a positive engagement clutch. So instead of a friction clutch where 2 plates just come together to transfer power across, the ZF 9-speed is the only one with teeth, and so it actually has to you know, align the teeth and then slide the coupling together, and then power can flow through that coupling. And then it has to, you know, align them again, basically align the forces and then pull them apart. So that way there's no wear. And with that mechanical marvel in mind, I'm amazed that it's as smooth as it is, but there are always going to be shifts that are different than the other shifts. And what's weird about the ZF is it's not every shift is like this. As you're going from 1 to 9 or 9 to 1, it'll do this twice. because it's closing and opening these clutches. And so, you know, shift 1, 2, 3, 4 will feel fine. Then there'll be a funny one, and then the next 2 are fine, and then there's a funny one. And so that's kind of what's going on there. That said, they have done a good job at making it better. The Cherokee that we have this week, it's a lot better than the first Cherokee.
Okay.
But I also wonder, does the average consumer actually care? Because, I mean, the Cherokee is selling relatively well in its segment. The Pilot, they have it in a bunch of models. They've got it in the Ridgeline now. They've got it in a ton of Acura models. JLR uses it in everything that's front-wheel drive, basically. You know, the problem is that when we look at the reliability metrics, the ZF 9-speed is not actually unreliable. And that's kind of the weird part here. Like when you take a look at true transmission reliability problems, not like customer shift quality complaint, like did it break? The 9-speed is not unreliable. It's just never going to feel like the Honda 10-speed or the GM 9-speed. And I've noticed that I get questions about like, oh, well, I don't want to buy that GM car because it's got a 9-speed, or I don't want to buy the Mercedes because it has a 9-speed.
Which totally,
and you're like, but they're not the same. Yeah, they're not the same thing.
Well,
it's like
a lot of consumers
minds.
don't know that. I definitely want to go to the audience and let us know in the comments, either on my channel or on Alex's channel, if you guys know somebody or own a vehicle that has this transmission, because I have seen comments about, at least on videos that I've posted, where people were said, yeah, I had like an earlier Jeep Renegade and it has that 9-speed, and I had to have their transmission replaced after like 20,000 miles. So that's definitely something that you've read about in the industry.
And that's what's kind of weird too, is that initially when the transmission first came out, dealers didn't understand what was going on. Consumers didn't understand what was going on. So we did see, and when it moved to Honda, we saw the same thing too, that there were this flurry of transmission replacements. But the problem is they all went back for diagnostics, and they said there's nothing wrong with the transmission. It's operating as designed. So is that a reliability problem or not? Since it didn't actually break, then it counts as not a reliability problem, which is the quirky thing here. It's just never going to be smooth.
And Alex, what engine does the Cherokee that you're driving have?
This one has the 3.2.
Oh, it has a 3.2.
So that's the better option.
I drove that Cherokee with the 2. I drove the Cherokee with the 2-liter. I have my reviews on MotorTrend.com if anybody wants to go look at it. I drove a Trailhawk with 2-liter turbo and that 9-speed auto, and mind you, this 9-speed felt much better driving with that 2-liter than it did in the other cars that's in it. Especially better than whatever that 2.4 Tiger Shark is, which is just yeah. So
there's a super chat question here I want to get to real quick. Greg Winter asks, 2018 ATS-V with 8,000 miles, approximately 48,000. Is it worth it? That car is what, 75 grand when it was new, the ATS-V?
Roughly.
What do you think, Roman? Is that worth it?
How much is it? What was the number?
They're asking $48,000. It has 8,000 miles on it.
God, no. How old?
2018.
And how many miles?
8,000 miles.
8,000 miles, huh?
I'd say I would say for me, if I were buying that, it'd have to be high 30s right now.
Really? Yeah. They've depreciated that much. Wow.
Cadillacs depreciate horribly. They don't hold their value very well. And unless it has some like something like Super Cruise, maybe. Did they have Super Cruise back in 2018?
No, but I think the manual is probably a little bit harder to find. Yeah. And it has to. It's true. It would have to just be in really, really good shape. Because I remember when I had that car, I had one about a year and a half ago. It was like over 70 grand. So they depreciate a lot. So it's going to be a really interesting car in the used car market.
I mean, what's the average depreciation is like 50% in 3 years? It's something staggering like that. So
is the V also depreciating quite that fast?
I think it depreciates quicker actually, in some ways.
Because the weird part about the depreciation numbers that makes this tricky is that when they calculate depreciation, they're talking about MSRP versus sales after 3 years. And if you're selling well below MSRP, your depreciation number is always going to look worse. So if you got a $30,000 MSRP, 2 cars, and one sells for 25,000, but then at the end they both sell for whatever. The way that the residual is calculated by ALG is MSRP versus transaction price at the end,
So
not true price.
I think that brings up a great question, because the latest news, and you probably know this, was that the Mannheim auction published a press release saying that used car prices are down 11%.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then the other story out there is that dealers will actually not take leasebacks right now. A lot of dealers.
I saw that.
So what are people doing with their leases?
They're asking them to hold on to it for like another few months, or just extending it.
Yeah,
I mean,
and so,
but what if they don't want the car?
The used car market's kind of in free fall right now, and so if you've got cash, play hardball.
Yeah, no, my dad was telling me he was thinking about looking at a Miata, and he wanted to buy like an NC this year, and I was like, you should buy it right now, because this is the time to buy a used car with the prices just dropping like crazy. I mean, you can snag a deal. So new cars, from what I hear, like a lot of my friends that work in sales, they're still selling on new cars, but they all basically told me the same thing, that used cars fell off a cliff, which is a shame.
Yeah, I mean, the used car is not going to have 0% interest for 9-10 years for your whole lifetime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, if you
0% till you die.
No, I want to go to people in the comments again, the audience. I want to, if you guys bought a car since the coronavirus started, our pandemic started, I want to hear about it, because especially if you took advantage of that financing. I mean, some of the ones with 84 months, that's really tempting. That's really tempting.
I mean, that's what we just did with our toy that I just showed you. I mean, it's 0% financing for 24 months and no payments for 6 months. So
wow,
like,
so you basically just get to have it for free for
for a while. Hey, let's see how it goes. I don't know what the depreciation is like though.
Hey, guys, by the way, we all agree that the best thing about the multi-air engine is the name.
Yeah.
Do they still use multi-air? I think that's a Fiat thing, isn't it?
Yeah, they have it on the 2.4 and like quite a few engines. So
it's good on some engines.
Yeah. They have multi-air 2 and 3 now too.
Yeah, the problem with Tiger Shark is that it was the Global Engine Alliance, remember way back when, with Hyundai and Mitsubishi and Chrysler, and then Hyundai has developed the snot out of that engine, and even though it served as like some of the basics for their current engine designs, it's like way later in development. And FCA is like, it's okay, we'll just keep making the same one.
That's the thing. It's like the Veloster N engine, and then like the 2.4 that you find in like the Sonata, in the old Sonata, and in the current Santa Fe and Tucson, like a couple other cars. That's still got those world engine underpinnings.
Yeah, which is fine. I mean, and it's like. Right, and it's like, and that's fine. Even supposedly the new Strip Stream family, even though it's an all-new design, it like builds on some of those design themes. So there's nothing wrong with it. It's just, please refresh it.
So I'll go first. What's the best engine, the best new engine, ground-up new engine? And I think it has to be the straight 6 diesel that GM developed. Was Silverado and now
that's a hard one.
I would argue Mercedes inline 6.
I was going to say that the E53, that EQ boost,
I like that engine.
The EQ boost engine with the way it sounds and everything, that is phenomenal. I mean, that engine and the BMW B58, those are like my two favorites, straight 6-cylinder engines.
Yeah, Mercedes makes fabulous engines. I really wish they would stop building transmissions, but they make fabulous engines.
I would go with B58 because I'm a sucker for a real smooth BMW inline 6. So.
Yeah, you know what's interesting, because I had the 2021 Supras last week, and then this week they picked up the Supras and they dropped off for the X3M with the S58 engine. And there are times when I'm driving that S58 motor, and it doesn't sound quite as good as the B58 at times. I don't know why. I don't know if it's the way it's tuned. I mean, it's bonkers fast and it does sound good, but the exhaust in the Supra, I feel like, just has a little bit more crackles and burbles.
Sophian, is it augmented? I'm just going there because BMW does that.
I think it is slightly.
I think it is.
So yeah, because like Roman, remember when we did AVA, we drove the we had that X5M or X6M over there. Like the exhaust sounds really good on the outside when you're standing behind the mufflers, but then on the inside, it doesn't really sound like much. Like you hear some kind of augmented noise and you're kind of disappointed, and then you stand outside and you're like, okay, I love this car.
You know what that just reminded me of? the Lexus UX 250h F Sport with that fake engine noise.
Yes.
Where it literally sounds like a NASCAR Camry V6 is what it sounded like.
All right, so
back to trucks though. I have a question for you, Roman. So how do you feel about the oil pump being belt driven in the 3-liter Duramax? I get that an awful lot for some reason from commenters. It doesn't bother me necessarily, but how do you feel?
It doesn't bother me. You know, GM does like wacky stuff like that all the time, right?
The complaint is you have to drop the transmission to fix it.
The GM does in the 350 is they always put the distributor behind the engine, right?
Yep.
And so when you want to go at it, it's like you have to crawl over this hot engine. And so I kind of gotten used to it. But let me go back one step. What is the worst, and I'll take my answer. What is the worst augmented engine note in what car and what is it? So I've got two, right? It's got to be probably the Raptor. I hate the fact that they pipe in and use it.
Extra cylinders. I was going to say Ford truck with the extra cylinders.
Yeah. That's horrible. And I think the Mustang EcoBoost, right? The little also augments it. If I remember right. It's been a while since I've been in there.
I am not thrilled about the I-Pace's Jetsons sound somehow.
Really? I did not mind it. The
like
Audi
it.
e-tron, I liked the noise that it was making in the e-tron. I thought that was a cool noise. But
it didn't really bother me either. It's just
for me, it's the Lexus hybrids. I hate the fake noise that the Lexus hybrids do. With that ACS button, I turn those off every time I get into those because I think it's a cheesy fake noise that I just think makes the car feel cheap for me. I'm not a fan of it.
I drove a Lexus LC500H recently with that crazy noise thing, and I took it up on, I think it was Mulholland Drive or something like that, and it was so not in tune with what the engine was sounding like. And I had the windows down.
Yeah, because you can see the tack. Yeah, because you can watch the tack move, but the noise doesn't match it.
And that's the same problem in the Fords with the 3.5 EcoBoost. Is you're inside and you're like, I got this meaty V8 powertrain, and you're like, I feel cheated because all of a sudden now the cylinders aren't even right. And then you lower the window and you realize that nobody else is hearing what you're hearing.
Well, how did that become a thing? You know, what automotive engineer decided that we're gonna, you know, it started out with like those sound tubes, right? That BMW was doing, where they would just like take the engine note and actually funnel it into the car. That was cool because you were getting real induction. Yeah, I'm good with it. And then all of a sudden they just decided, screw it, let's fake it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't get it either.
Faked it too. I remember driving an ATS-V and that faked it too, and you can tell it was coming from the speakers and not from the engine.
And there's some good fakes and there's some bad fakes. Like BMW has kind of fixed the fake, and I think they do fake really well now. Now it's kind of in tune with everything, and it sounds okay, and it sounds okay outside and inside, and it's not so bad. So I think that kind of works.
All right, so I want to actually switch gears here because I want to get to this other topic. So on Wednesday, I posted a review or comparison with the 2020 Telluride and the Highlander Platinum. If you guys haven't seen that video, be sure to check out. We'll put the link in the description. But one of the comments that people mentioned, because you know, a lot of people like to always go back and forth between reliability with Korean cars and with Japanese cars, because I picked the Telluride as the winner in that comparison, just because they're like with more space on the inside, the way it looks, a lot more value. The Highlander was over $50,000. The Telluride's $47,000, and you actually have a usable third row. One of the comments I got was like, people were saying, oh, like Stefan doesn't like, you know, Toyotas or something because he's always picking the Kias, where I want to go to you guys really quick because Kia and Hyundai are really killing it nowadays. And it's funny to see, or it's crazy to see, because their products are good to the point where, you know, 10 years ago, Toyota and Honda would always win a comparison test. And now we're seeing Hyundai and Kia, you know, building those cars that win those comparison tests. But what are your guys' thoughts on the Koreans, and have they caught up to Japanese in terms of reliability and build quality, would you say?
So I had, we have a podcast that we're doing, and I talked with oh god, he's a designer he did the Kona, I can't think of his name right now, and anyway, we got into that with him. You know, he runs a California design studio, and I said, what's the difference, because he used to work he started out of Mitsubishi, then he went for BMW, and now he's working basically for Chris Chapman.
Chris Chapman, yeah.
Okay.
And I said, what's the difference between, like, you know, the cultures in the companies? And he said that the Koreans have this underdog mentality, right? They feel like they have to work twice as hard because, and the reason he said is because the brands are so young, right? So if you're BMW, you've been around forever. And so there's a lot of history and just a lot of brand value. And so he said the Koreans don't have that mentality. They're brand new and they're really trying to work twice as hard and provide twice as much value because that's how they feel like they can catch up. And so, yeah, I think the Koreans, with especially the Telluride, man, they knocked that thing out of the ballpark. It's a 7 Series for $20,000 less. Hey, Tommy's here. He wants to. Chris Chapman. Yeah,
I think I would agree. I think they did an excellent job. It's like the one problem with reliability metrics is when we're looking at reliability metrics now, whether it's Consumer Reports or JD Power or True Delta or any of the other metrics out there, we're looking at a snapshot of 3 to 5 years ago, depending on which metric you're looking at. So the honest truth is we have zero idea how reliable the new Highlander is going to be, or the Telluride, or the Palisade. All you can go on is brand reputation, and brand reputation, Toyota, generally speaking, is a semi-step above Hyundai and Kia. But in all the metrics, Hyundai and Kia are pretty darn close. Now, anybody can have a bad year. Like, I was shocked when we looked at the metrics, or did a video on reliability, looked at the metrics. The least reliable car in the subcompact hatchback category was the CHR. It actually managed to be less reliable than the Volkswagen, the General Motors, the Fords, the everything. It was absolutely.
What was the common problem with that car? They say
there were electrical issues. There was a transmission hotspot and something or other else. And it was kind of like a one-off year because other years the CHR was mid-pack or so. CHR is actually, since it's been out, CHR has never been top of the pack in reliability in that segment. Go figure. But I'm just saying it can happen to anybody. But I would have put money on it being more reliable than average, and I would have been wrong.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to tap out of here for a second. You're getting the better Mica. So here comes Tommy.
Hey, Tommy.
Oh, look at that. There we go. We got
our average age just dropped a lot.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Roman turned into I guess a younger version of himself. So
what do you think, Stefan, about the Hyundai Kia question?
So that's really a tough one because, the Koreans themselves have a lot to prove, and I think they've already started to prove that they can make reliable, solid cars. But earlier in this decade, when the YF Sonata came out, that's the 2011 model, when they did that 2-liter turbo, that moved to the 2-liter turbo, and then that Theta 2 G 2.4. So I believe that was kind of the point where they moved way too fast. But now they've started to gain back some momentum, and they've caught up. I feel like they've caught up to the Japanese now, the Japanese brands, because they're also copying what the Japanese brands are doing, which is just make incremental improvements to all your powertrains and your platforms and all your components, which is probably one of the most foolproof ways to keep your cars reliable. Don't make gigantic changes, and don't make on a mid-cycle refresh, don't do all sorts of crazy things to your car, just little by little. And I feel like the Hyundai and Kia right now in this current lineup, starting with this DN8 Sonata, our lovely, crazy lights, full of lights Sonata is in this trend. They've introduced something, but they didn't introduce something that wacky, per se, because that 8-speed automatic's been there. The 2.5 liter is kind of not really that new.
Right. Well, that's the thing is Hyundai and Kia really have been making a lot of improvements. I mean, they've got their long warranty, which is still the industry best. I mean, one of the comments that I read a lot in my Telluride versus Highlander video was actually there's a comment here from Gregor Puff. Love this guy's name. I'm mixed on the Highlander and Telluride, looking to trade in an older Toyota. I've driven both, like the familiar feel of the Highlander, but I like the style and the newness of the Telluride. That is the common thing, because people are coming from these 10-year-old, 15-year-old Toyotas and Hondas with 150, 200,000 miles, served them well, and they're very skeptical. Should I leave Honda and Toyota? And that's the thing is, Honda and Toyota, they're building great cars, but they don't stand out the way they used to, especially when you've got the newness from the Koreans with the value and stuff.
Honda's also starting to fall behind.
They are. They have a lot of issues with their infotainment systems. The 9-speed auto has been giving them problems, and Toyota has issues with the infotainment system as well. Like their no manufacturer's perfect.
Consumer Reports brand rankings for 2020 has Dodge estimated reliability above Honda.
Wow. The electrical, the one thing that I've noticed.
I don't know if I believe that, Alex. And I'm going to
bold
call you
move out there, Alex.
I've got the Consumer Reports. I've got the Consumer Reports printouts to prove it. I don't know if it's going to be true, but that's what they stated.
All right.
But I would argue that like
sometimes
reliability.
I think that you definitely drink the Dodge Kool-Aid a little. You like Dodge a little.
I mean, if I was going to go buy a reliable car and reliability was the most important metric to me.
Goodness, hold on, we're lagging here.
I don't think I would buy the Dodge if that was like my key metric. I'm just saying, in the metrics, that's what we see. If you believe the Consumer Reports, then you should go there. But actually, I find that there's a flaw in Consumer Reports metrics, and so I think that this actually is why Dodge is reporting high. You know, you have to be interested in reliability and otherwise you wouldn't be a Consumer Reports member, right? That's why you joined.
Right.
And generally speaking, if you're interested in reliability, you're probably not buying the Dodge in the first place. So your pool of people to report on is very small. And if you take a look at Consumer Reports metrics, like Dodge Charger is best selling in the segment by a bazillion. They sell so many more of those, even at retail, than anything else. And they only have reliability metrics for 1 out of the last 12 years because there just aren't enough reporting. So,
has anyone here ever noticed that Alex likes to defend FCA a lot?
No, that's not hang on a minute, Sophie, because that's not a defense of FCA. That's saying that Consumer Reports reliability metrics are probably flawed. That perhaps Dodge is.
I would agree with that.
They're not polling enough people to tell, so we don't know.
So I just felt like calling you out just because people like to say that I'm a Toyota hater, but I'm like, but Alex loves his FCA product, so that's okay.
I would argue that I like everybody's products, but I go for like what they are. Like, do you want the reliable thing? That's probably not going to be the FCA car. Do you want the new thing? That's probably not going to be the FCA car. Do you want the efficient thing? That's not going to be the FCA car. If you want the batshit crazy thing, that's going to be the FCA car. If you want the practical minivan, that's going to be the FCA car. And if you want the SUV that will tow, that's going to be the FCA car. But for all the other things, that's not going to be them. That's not their thing.
There's actually a comment here I want to address. Naveen the Machine said, I've noticed that most car reviewers are Toyota haters. Why is that? So
Naveen, he's been asking this question for a lot.
So I want to address this because we are no means Toyota haters. We all judge every car fairly. And Toyota builds some great products. There are easily a few Toyotas out there that I will easily recommend. The problem is their cars aren't as competitive, or they don't stand out as much as they used to. And when you've got the other brands like Kia and Hyundai killing it, Subaru killing it, Mazda killing it, Tesla, the electric brands are coming in, it makes it more difficult to recommend the Toyota simply just on their reliability or their perceived reliability and their reputation. Because at some point you can't just buy a car just because you know it's going to be reliable. Like if you're going to be spending, $50,000 on a new Highlander and you're not getting the car that has the most backseat space or the most trunk space, the most like a usable third row,
right?
It makes it start to question why you should buy this.
I think part of it too is like, like reviewers get really excited about new features, right? Or new crazy technology. And Toyota makes such small incremental changes because they are so focused on reliability. So like the Tundra, from a reviewer standpoint, right, who just got out of a Ram with a 12-inch screen and an e-torque system and all these cool features, you get into a Tundra with one USB port and you're going to be scratching your head. And I think that is definitely part of it. Whereas, someone buying a pickup truck to hold on to for 15 or 20 years might not care so much about cooled seats, but might care about, that 3U RFE engine that'll go for 200,000 miles.
If I might divert us here, we have a few super chats that I need to address because I'm sorry, guys, and Garrett Bentz, because we've been jabbering off a storm here. So the first thing is someone's asking about hybrid e-CVTs versus belt and pulley CVTs. Long story there is we have videos on that, so I would go to those videos because it's a long explanation. But when we're talking about hybrid and the description says e-CVT or CVT, unless it's a Nissan hybrid, it does not have a CVT. It has something else under the hood. So Hondas, Toyotas, FCA products, Fords, etc. If it says eCVT, it is not a belt and pulley CVT. So all reliability or drivability worries, if you don't like that kind of CVT, don't apply. It's not the same thing. And then the second one here, Garrett's asking, and this is a question for everybody, looking at the RDX super handling all-wheel drive and Veloster N, so ding ding, Stefan, for my next vehicle, how much more fun is a Veloster N than an Acura RDX? Ooh, can we quantify that? Can we give that a number?
That is so two opposite ends of the spectrum here.
Does the more rear-wheel drive ability of super handling all-wheel drive make up for the higher center of gravity? Answering the last part, I would say no. And if it were my choice, just on fun, I would probably Veloster N.
I would agree with you. However, they're so different cars. Like an RDX,
they are.
Like the RDX is twice the price of a Veloster N. So it's kind of like, do you need all-wheel drive? Do you need like a more comfortable ride?
All Garrett needs is fun.
Fun. So if you want just fun,
all he needs. That's
fun.
it, huh?
Get the Veloster N.
Get the Veloster N.
I'm putting words into Garrett's mouth. So Garrett, if you're still listening, respond down there if this is not true. But he just said fun. So just
I suggest a motorcycle. That's even better in some ways than
no, motorcycle is dangerous and irresponsible.
But it's fun, Alex. He doesn't care about that. He just wants fun.
So I have a
R56 Mini, just like what you guys got.
Yeah.
Not in the available options.
Minis are
just
so hold on.
RDX or Veloster.
I have another super chat question here from Greg. He's asking, why is Subaru moving the Crosstrek to the 2.5 liter engine when the FA20 burns less oil and gets better real world fuel economy? I didn't realize the 2.5 burns more oil than the 2 liter.
Less oil. Is that an EPA thing? Like how much oil it'll burn over the course of
I know that Subarus have a reputation for being oil burners, but I didn't realize the 2.5 apparently burns more than the FA20. So if you guys know about that, feel free to leave a comment.
I have heard that, but I don't know if there's my thing is, I have not heard that the newest Subaru engines have that problem. So
well, they're completely different engine designs.
Right.
So, people who complain that Subarus are unreliable and that they burn oil, they're talking about the older Subarus. So we don't really know if the new ones are going to be like that. But to answer Greg's question, they moved the Crosstrek to the 2.5, or at least they're offering it with the 2.5 because the 2 liter is dog slow. It's very
it is.
Yes.
And here's the thing. To give him an explanation on the difference is that the oil burning Subaru engine is the EJ. The 2.5 liter that they're using in the Forester.
It's the FB, I think, right?
That's an FB25. That's actually related to the FB20 that's already in the Crosstrek and in the Impreza. Those engines are new.
Yeah. So, and on the oil burning oil consumption is the nice way to say this. Oil consumption issue. Remember, any engine at all with low friction rings and really lightweight oil, like we see in Subarus for fuel economy, 0W20 in most of them, you're going to get oil consumption. It's just the way that it's going to be. And that's going to be anybody's new ultra efficient engine. If you want to have standard all-wheel drive and have fuel economy that's comparable to the competition's engine, slightly higher oil consumption over the oil change is just going to be a fact of life.
Yeah, Andre has he bought a brand new 2015 Outback with the 2.5, and they've driven it 94,000 miles, and within like the last 20,000 miles, it uses about a quart every few months, like every 3 months. And they brought it to the dealer, and they're like, "Yeah, that's pretty normal. Just keep going with it." Yep. So they're just living with it. We actually just did a video today. So we bought a '78 Subaru DL, and we compared it off road to the 2015 to see what would happen.
And tell us how tiny it is, because I didn't realize this. So tell us how tiny that thing is.
Yeah, we measured it. It's exactly, this is an exact measurement, this much shorter than a Mini Cooper S. The new Mini, and it's 10 inches narrower. Yeah, it's
and how much does it weigh?
1,900 pounds.
Damn!
It's so fun. Yeah, Andre went up like this really steep hill, and he was like full throttle. The CVT was like, and finally made it up. So I tried going nice and slow in that car, and it would have none of it. So I basically just popped the clutch at the bottom of the hill and planted it all the way up. And I think I got like 2 feet of air at the top. But the thing is indestructible. Like, it's really cool. And in '78, they gave you 4 tow hooks front and rear. It's got an oil pan skid plate. It's got like 9 or 10 inches of ground clearance. Like, those old Subarus they rusted away if you breathe on them, but the actual like off-road capability on some of those older models is really there.
So
Like,
just off-road it where it's very dry.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, any kind of moisture will be gone. But you remember, like in the early 2000s, when if you wanted to build like a crossover or an SUV as a company, it had to have a low range. So like the Kia Borrego had a low range, and the first-gen Mercedes ML had a low range in the Touareg. I want that back. I thought that was such a cool thing. The issue is, I guess, no one was using them, and they were heavy, but that was such a cool thing.
So here's a question for some of the group here that is more into certified pre-owned things. AP is asking, thanks for the super chat, certified pre-owned Alpina B6 or Mercedes S63?
Ooh,
Coupe.
what a question.
Ooh.
What a fun life to afford those.
I'll do the S63. I love me a good AMG over the Alpinas.
I might do that as well.
Yeah, because
I don't know.
If it's an AMG with a naturally aspirated 6.2 liter, yes.
I like the Mercedes Turbo, so I would probably still go there too. Although, I guess it would depend on the age though, because if it's an old one, I wasn't a fan of the interior of the Mercedes. But
so
what
about Alpina B6 or M6?
I don't really like the 6 Series. I don't like the 6 Series as much. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a beautiful looking car, but I just don't like I don't think it aged.
You're dead to me. You're dead to me, Sofian.
Sorry,
what don't you like about it?
Yeah, what's wrong with it?
Was it the bagel spot?
Gran Coupe, because it should be burned with fire, or actual coupe?
No, actual coupe, not Gran Coupe.
Okay,
yeah, actual.
See, I don't like the actual coupe. I actually preferred the Gran Coupe.
What?
What about the convertible?
No, I'm not really a big fan of those big luxury GT convertibles. Like, maybe it was the Bengal butt. Maybe it was the Bengal butt. Look at that! I've offended Tommy here, but hold on.
Dude, we're all giving.
Oh my God!
So guys, remember, looks are subjective. Actually, there was a question here I wanted to get to. Drew McReynolds asked, "What do we think looks better, the Volkswagen Arteon or Kia Stinger?" That's a good question.
Stinger. Easy.
Ooh, really?
Just get rid of the fake vents.
I'm actually more toward Arteon. I think the Arteon looks better for me. Stinger looks good too, but I think if Volkswagen did an Arteon R with like the turbo 5-cylinder, it'd be really killer.
I would qualify that by saying that there's absolutely nothing wrong with the Arteon style. I like Volkswagen's, harsh line thing. I like the Germanic look. Totally looks good, but I like the Stinger better.
The Stinger, and that's the thing, is the Stinger drives better. It drives better. It's faster. It's rear drive. It's more fun. So
it's not a controversial design like Avalon that kind of looks like it has a little Hitler mustache on top,
or like the big gaping grill. So here's another super chat question. Greg is asking. He drove the Forte GT and SI back to back. Preferred the Forte. What are your thoughts? Stefan actually has the SI, and you've driven the Forte GT recently as well. Which one would you choose?
Oh God, that's a hard one. Oh man, yeah, that's a hard one. I would. Oh my God, man, putting me on the spot here. So
that's what we do here on our live chat. Sorry.
Stefan and I have spent like the last 2 days having this conversation.
You know what? I would take just because I like the way that diff works, I would take the SI. Okay. So my only issue with the SI is that clutch, because the clutch on that SI is so mushy. But otherwise, it's splitting hairs here. So I would go SI.
Does it still have the rev hang also? The SI?
Oh my God.
It's bad.
Yes.
Yeah.
I drove it up the crest yesterday, and then I drove my Veloster R-Spec this morning. So that's why I'm like, the rev hang on that SI, man. Ugh.
Yeah, see, I would go with the Forte GT. I would go for the Forte GT because the value thing. I think the Forte GT sounds better, and the rev hang on the SI is so bad that I can't stand it. And the fact that there's a Type R available, if I was going to go Honda, I would pony up the extra 10 grand to get the Type R. That's just because the Type R is so good. The SI, it's not dead to me, but I'm just kind of like, I ignore it because I want the Type R.
Right. And it's like, here's my problem with the SI has always been like, if you're shopping SI, GLI, Forte GT, in this like the only trio that there is left, right? Because those are the only 3 performance sedan things that there are. Then clearly,
WRX too.
Oh, that's right. There's a sedan WRX.
Yeah.
I somehow discounted that, but I should include that. Then clearly, and I need to re-record an extra soon. But clearly value is important to you, right? Because you're not buying an M3, you're not buying a Golf R or a Civic Type R, right? You're buying this like one step above the average, and obviously money is important to you. So value, I think, is the big win for the Forte, because the Forte GT maxes out with everything on it for less than the Civic Si. And it's like, is the Civic Si better? I would say yes, but is it worth it?
Barely.
That I'm not sure. I'm not
sure.
So
there's a follow-up question here from EMDEC55. What new manual cars don't suffer from rev hang? Can we think of any new manual cars that don't have rev hang? It's a good question. Miata?
Actually, the Mustangs are fine.
Yeah, and the Civic Type R doesn't suffer from it either.
Right. So there are definitely some new cars out there that don't have rev hang. So there's really no excuse why Honda has so much rev hang on the SI. It almost ruins the experience for me. I don't like the rev hang.
For me, it's splitting hairs between those two. But really, to be honest, I take either one. But as from a dynamic standpoint, I take the SI. But to be honest, I feel bad for the SI because. One, I feel like Honda neutered that car on purpose by putting that 1.5 liter in there and all that rev hang. They should have just taken the 2-liter turbo out of the Accord and dumped it in.
Or like just do a detuned version.
Totally agree.
A detuned version from the
I mean, it's like the Honda. If you just get a regular Civic, a Civic Sport, for instance, and you Honda it, it's going to
basically
be
an SI
anyway.
Right.
And you can
use it as a hatch.
And it's like the Civic Si in optimum form will outhandle the Forte GT, and it definitely feels a little bit more polished. But for less money, you can get the DCT in the Forte GT and summer tires on it from the factory, and cooled seats. So it's like you're gonna get more stuff, and everybody with the DCT is gonna be faster than the Civic Si driver with the manual transmission at the stoplight races. At least 9 out of 10 times.
Has he considered an R56 Mini? I think that's probably the best flying out there.
Yeah.
Actually, there was a question here, Tommy. I forgot that. Let me actually scroll up. But somebody was saying they had less than $18,000 to spend on a fun small hatchback.
Fun small hatchback. You could buy 3 of them, and one of them might work some of the time if you have 3 of them. That's what I would do. Do you think they're going to do a hotter version of the Forte, or are they going to do like a higher performance?
Like an actual GT.
Not with this one, because I think this current generation Forte marks the end of the current line of GT cars, because the next upgrade to the GT moniker starts with Optima, and we're getting Optima K5 GT here with. I think it's going to have certain things that the Sonata N line isn't going to have, and I'm hearing limited slip differential.
So that's kind of my question there, Stefan. So do you think will we actually see an N family corollary in the Kia lineup, do you think?
No, not happening.
So if you want an N, okay. So if you're going to get an N, it's just going to be Hyundai.
Yeah, you have to go with Hyundai. So
weird, since Kia's supposed to be the performance brand.
Yeah.
Huh.
It's really weird. I don't get it either. So, and I cover these guys pretty extensively, and I don't get it either. So yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to
super strange.
Yeah.
I want to move and change some subjects here. I have 2 cars right now that actually I was watching one of your older videos, Alex, on when you did the cross country V60 when you were in Canada, because that video I watched it earlier this morning. You talked about Subaru a lot.
It's hard not to.
You mentioned Subaru
more than Volvo, probably.
Like I could have played a game. Let's take a shot every time Alex said Subaru, and I would have been drunk after like 5 minutes. But
hey.
but anyway, so I've got my Outback that my husband and I just bought. We've had it for like almost 2 months now. It has 1,300 miles on it, and then Volvo just dropped off the 2020 XC V60 cross country. So a lot of people say that you don't compare the two, but they're the Volvo is a little bit smaller, not quite as roomy, but it starts at $45,000. So the one topic I want to talk about: do you guys feel that buying a luxury brand today is worth it to spend the money, especially when mainstream brands are doing such really nice interiors now with all the tech? Like you can get all this tech on mainstream cars, which you couldn't even get on a premium car or you couldn't even get like 5 years ago. It was limited to premium cars. So what are your thoughts on mainstream versus luxury?
If I might defend myself from our previous conversation today, Sophia.
Yes, because we were texting back and forth.
So to clarify my thoughts here, my constant Subaru comparisons met the ire of, oddly enough, Subaru.
Really?
I was reminded by both Volvo and Subaru that there's strangely little cross shop between the two. Go figure. At any rate, whatever that is, Outback outsells the Volvo by like a bazillion to one, so it doesn't matter anyway. But I would say that, you know, when you look at them, there are all these little things that you get in the average luxury car that you don't get in the average mainstream car. So you're more likely to get, like, you know, aluminum suspension componentry, more real leather on the inside. You're going to get, you know, fancier transmissions, fancier widgets here and there, everywhere. But the question of, is it worth it, is always the problem. And like, if I were to buy a car now, I probably wouldn't buy a luxury branded car because I'm just not that kind of person right now. I would buy the mainstream car that had the better value.
See, what about you, Tommy? Would you go for, do you see the value in buying a luxury brand over a mainstream brand nowadays?
Yeah, I was just thinking about this. We have the Santa Fe right now. And it's the top trim. I think it's limited.
Ultimate.
It's limited now because it's ultimate. Ultimate basically got renamed to limited.
That's right. Yeah, okay. It's limited and all-wheel drive, and it's got just about every feature you'd expect in, you know, your Volvo or a BMW or Mercedes, or even more than you would get at, you know, a lower price Volvo or Mercedes. But I think there's more. If you look at the buttons, it's got the same tech, but some of the integration of the hardware, some of the materials, and I'm a sucker for design. I'm a sucker for really high quality materials, and you don't get that in, you know, your standard non-premium brand,
right,
per se. And there's some change, like Mazda's really pushing a lot of their design and materials, especially. But I really do like the Volvo interior, and you spend a lot of time in the interior. And even though you're not up there like touching and caressing the dash every moment that you're driving it, like, it's nice seeing that French stitching across the dash, right? And touching all the premium switchwear. So I think that's why I would lean that way. But I mean, to Alex's point, like, objectively, there's not a whole lot of.
Yeah, I would say the key there would be you have to spend your own money on it now.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Like, would you buy the $45,000 Subaru or the $65,000 Volvo? Like, if it were me right now, I would probably buy the Subaru. I would say the Volvo is unquestionably nicer, but I probably wouldn't spend the extra money on it, but that's just me. It's like, you know, because everything gets lost in those weird little details. Like, okay, so, you know, my cows came from Norway or Finland where they don't use barbed wire, so there are no defects in the leather. And Subaru's leather comes from, you know, America, where there's barbed wire and they have to resurface the leather to correct the defects. And so it is, you know, it's not as nice a leather, right? Or the dashboard is imitation leather instead of real leather. Or this is, you know, pleather where that might be real leather. But does it matter? You know, not necessarily. And then the real product may be less durable than the fake product. Like, you know, FCA does lovely stitched leather dashes. I would say if you plan on keeping your FCA product for 15 years, don't buy the leather dash, though, if it's going to sit out in the sun, because that leather's not going to last 15 years. It's going to look real great for the first 5, but how's it going to look for the next 5? I don't know. But if you're leasing a car, and almost all the luxury cars are leased, then after 3 years, who gives a crap, because it's not your problem.
Yeah. So you bring up an excellent point about the durability, Alex, because that is a great thing to bring up, because like I had this conversation with you earlier. Let's go back to it. Like the new Outback that we have, the dash actually does have some stitching on it, and every time I look at it, it looks like real leather. It feels like the same brown Napa leather that's on my seats. But you say it's not real leather. I still want to like email Subaru and ask them if this is real leather, because it's very
go ahead.
I do want to, because it looks very real, really real. But I actually went onto Volvo's site, because the XC, or I keep calling it the XC60, the V60 cross country that I have is $57,000. It does have some options on it, like the $4,000 Bowers and Wilkins sound system, which I think is ridiculously overpriced. I rebuilt one that matches the equipment of the Outback, pretty much like on the same level. It's $50,000, so it's exactly $10,000 more than the Subaru.
Yeah. So Sophia,
that's tricky.
Our 78 DL has a feature your car doesn't have, believe it or not.
What, my Subaru?
Yeah. Okay, that's it. Ready?
Ooh, that's sweet.
Oh my God, that thing looks clean.
That is awesome.
Yeah, look at this, pillarless.
Oh my
window
God,
glasses.
I remember Subaru got rid of that in like the mid 2000s, I think.
Yeah.
It was like such a big marketing push too. Like the fact that they didn't have anything around their glass, that was a big deal.
But you know what? I bet you there's a lot of wind noise because it has no
Yeah, exactly. And you know why they did that? Because it was cheaper. That's why they
But
did
it does
that.
look cool.
Speaking of which, back to the luxury, is luxury worth that thing? I would say it all depends on execution too.
Yeah.
There's especially with all these new
spare tire under the hood, baby.
There's a spare tire under the hood. Look at that. Is that a carbureted engine that I'm seeing there?
Yeah. It's literally like 150 pounds. That's all it weighs.
Wow. How much horsepower does that thing have, Tommy?
67. But the way these worked, this is pretty cool. So these were front wheel drive 98% of the time. And then they gave you a lever in here, and you have to actually engage four-wheel drive when you need it. So it's like a modern truck.
Oh yeah.
That thing is cool.
That's cool.
Classy.
Yeah.
It's really cool. It's really fun. AM radio, one speaker. But
One speaker.
Where's
Where's the speaker?
Speaker.
Where is the speaker?
I think you're about to see a really cracked dash. Yeah, look, there it is. It's just.
Oh, there we go.
Ooh.
Wow.
Classy. Nice.
That's it. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's
for
why
sure.
that dash mat covers it.
But the amazing thing is, so you all have driven the new Minis, right? And they're pretty small. And this is, like I said, 3 or 4 inches longer than the Mini. But look, like the trunk space is
It's huge.
cavernous. Yeah, and
Pretty
this
big.
folds completely flat. I mean, it's really, really
Well,
amazing.
it doesn't fold flat at the moment. I'm not seeing much flatness.
Well, what happens is the actual bottom seat folds up, so there's
I see.
One of
one of those, and then it'll fold flat.
Okay.
That thing is pretty
Back
cool.
to your question, Sophie. And I always ask people when they ask this question, how much is the logo worth to you? And I think that that's an honest question that is very tricky to answer, because for some people the logo means a lot, and for other people the logo is meaningless.
Mm-hmm.
So I will say that the luxury brands, even though the mainstream brands are giving you almost the same amount of features, there are things in the details that I noticed with the luxury brand, like the infotainment. So looking at the Volvo's 9-inch screen, which is almost 3 inches smaller than the Subaru's, it's kind of the equivalent of looking at an iPhone 10 screen versus an iPhone 7 screen. Like the resolution on the Subaru is not as bright, it's not as clear. There's a horrible glare on the screen from the sunroof, whereas in the Volvo, you get it, the screen just looks gorgeous. It's very bright, very crisp. However, the Volvo screen is still laggy, although it's not as laggy as the Subarus, I will say.
And smaller,
and smaller. So
Yeah.
I think in the details, you can notice a difference, especially when you look at the backup camera resolution. A lot of the luxury brands have really high quality backup screens, except some of them, like Acura's isn't great and Lexus isn't great, at least some of the older ones. So I think in the details, that's what's going to make a difference. But the mainstream brands really have caught up. Like Tommy, for example, I watched your video with the CX-5 Signature and the Hyundai Santa Fe. Like that interior on the Mazda is so luxurious looking, but the screen ruins it.
And it's like there are a lot of little details in the safety stuff. Like if I wanted the absolute safest car, no offense to Subaru, but it would be the Volvo. You know, their just whole mentality when it comes to safety is different, and like it's some of these details that get lost on people too. Like the Outback has load limiters and pretensioners on the front seat positions, but not the back seat positions. And Volvos have them on all seat positions. So, you know, in an accident, that's gonna reduce the load on your chest and on your ribs for all passengers. But most cars in the mainstream have them only in the front seats. Generally, luxury cars will have them in the back seats as well. And if you're a Volvo, they're on all the seat positions. So
there's another thing,
but that costs money, and it doesn't sound. Safety doesn't sell. Safety's not sexy.
The other thing too, and this is probably less of an important thing now than it was, but the dealer experience is also, I think, an interesting.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, that is true, because a lot of the mainstream brands, the dealer experience sucks.
Yeah, like Lexus dealers are a joy to go to. I don't know the ones in your area.
They are lovely.
Yeah, versus a Toyota dealership is like, it's a chore. Whereas going to Lexus, you can get work done. Some have golf courses even, you know, you got full food buffets.
I have to say though, that the worst dealer experience I've ever had, two worst dealer experiences, I actually have to combine them together, was Volkswagen and Audi for two completely different reasons. And the dealerships are not conjoined in the Bay Area. the Volkswagen dealers were all very weird and like, no, we don't want to let you drive anything. Like you pull in a Jaguar and you want to test drive a Passat, and they're like, well, no, I don't know if we have time for you. And
that's why I remember that you were very salty at that Volkswagen dealer.
I love Volkswagen products, and I always have to separate that because I love their stuff, but I'm like, dude, you got to do something about your dealers because they're so bad. And then oddly enough, the Acura or Audi dealers locally were like, didn't want to give you the time of day. And then when you're like trying to contact someone, like, okay, so can I like see inside the forbidden fruit of the A3 that is on your lot? A3. They're like, oh, you're gonna have to make an appointment. We can have you come back Wednesday. And I'm like, to unlock it. So there's that.
So I'm scratching my head on that one, Alex. Really?
Yeah. So can I do a super chat question before you do yours, Sofian?
Yeah, go ahead.
An older one here. So E Corp is asking, what are our thoughts on the 3 American car companies and the top thing each one can do to make them better? I like that question. Like pontificate for us.
Mm-hmm.
If I can go first, I would say top 3 things American car companies could do to make things better. So Ford, I would say Ford needs to work a little bit on their interiors a tiny bit, but I think that they're going in the right direction with Mustang Mach-E and the Lincoln lineup, so I'm actually okay with what they're doing.
Is that the Mustang?
The Mustang Mach-E. And I think that GM needs to work on their interiors as well, primarily. I think the rest of what they're doing is lovely, but their drivetrains are lovely, interiors are their thing. And I think that FCA needs to work on reducing weight in their product line, and I would say getting a bat crap crazy front wheel drive thing going on, because we've got the Hellcats, and clearly if anybody needs a 400 horsepower front wheel drive car in their lineup, it's definitely going to be FCA.
FCA needs some diversity in their powertrain lineup.
Yeah, they need some. They need to address their fuel economy. That's what they need to address.
Right,
like
exactly.
all the their philosophy
nonsense.
of Hellcat, all the things has ruined their fuel efficiency.
No, because they've got Tesla. They can buy credits.
Even with the what do you call it? Even with the e-torque systems on the Rams and on the Jeeps, they are not that efficient.
No, that's not an efficient brand. But so here's the reality with FCA and their fuel efficiency. If FCA was a fuel efficient brand, then Tesla would be bankrupt because they pay Tesla 330 million euros a quarter just to buy your credits for Europe, and they pay hundreds of millions of dollars a quarter for credits in the US.
Yeah, and then I think you're spot on. GM interiors, especially like in the Cadillac lineup.
Mm-hmm. Have any of you guys driven to CT5?
I have not driven it yet.
Because the event was canceled. Remember, we were supposed to, and you lucky people from MotorTrend got to do it anyway. But the rest of us all got canceled.
Well,
no, I have not.
There's a reason why GM should be. I'm going to agree with Tommy on that one because CT5.
Another disappointment is what I was afraid of, just like the XT6 was.
Yeah, the one I keep going back to is the XT6 versus like the Aviator.
Yes, exactly.
No competition whatsoever. I would rather compare the Telluride to the Aviator, honestly, because the XT6 is so behind, and it's ridiculously overpriced. So I think for me,
expensive.
Oh yeah, for me, I think the American brands need to stop overcharging. Like especially for some of their newest products, they've been jacking the price up like crazy, and I'm just kind of like. So now you're outpricing yourselves out of the mainstream, but then you're throwing a bunch of money on the hood in rebates, which Ford is very guilty of, to try to lower the price.
With Lincoln doing that in a way, because like Lincoln can deserve the higher price tag, and maybe they'll get there one day because they're going in the right direction at least. But
like $60,000 for an Explorer or something,
right?
Expensive.
And XT4 and XT6, oh my God, they're so well. XT4, 5, and 6, all of them. Oh my
very
God.
Overpriced.
How much were the XT6s that you guys had in for testing?
They were like 72 was mine.
70, way over 70. The more surprising thing was the XT4 that we had. That was 69 something, $60,000 essentially for an XT4. You can't even get a Range Rover Evoque that high, and it's already the expensive one in that segment.
We had what was it? 2 years ago at SUV of the Year, this was when the Wrangler got the win. The XT4 that was in there was, how much was yours, Alex? You said 59?
I think it was 59 and change.
Dang, that beats ours, because the one that we had was 57, and it was all-wheel drive.
Yeah, this was the fully loaded sporty versioned one, whatever, and it was significantly more than an XC40, which I think is one of the class leaders in that segment. The X1, which I also think is a class leader because it's minivan sized on the inside. Even an X2 M35i was less. I mean, like, why would you get the X4 if you could X2 M35i?
You know what Ford needs to improve, in my opinion? They need to improve delivering products far earlier than they do. You know, Ranger was super delayed. Ranger was so many years late to Colorado and Tacoma to the market. Bronco, I understand, is delayed now because of the current global situation. But Bronco should have been out 4 years ago, right? Raptor the second-gen Raptor came out too late. I feel like these manufacturers spend so much time taking a segment and just stratifying it to the absolute minimum when we still don't have a Wrangler competitor, you know, for the last 20 years. We still don't have a proper Raptor competitor from Ram or GM. Like, there are these huge holes and there's high volume there, and yet we're still making tiny improvements in crossovers over minuscule different segment markets.
Do you have to leave us for a second?
With cutting all their sedans too.
Yeah.
So I want to get to this super chat question really quick.
Oh, sure.
Quick one.
You go first.
Alexander Wilson said, would you guys prefer a Volvo S60 or a BMW 3 Series? I would probably go M340i.
Really?
I would say it depends on what you want out of the car a little bit. So if you're after fun and handling, then I would BMW. If you're looking for a more relaxed experience and high fuel economy, then I would S60 T8. We got
the T8 really
good. We got 27 miles per gallon just driving it around regularly. 400 horsepower. It's almost as fast as the M340i. It's a little bit slower, but 27 miles per gallon is pretty damn good.
And that's why I love this current generation of 3 Series.
3 Series. I don't love it either, Tommy. You're right. But compared to the Volvo, I only like the T6 powertrain. I don't like the T5, and I don't like the T8. I think that the T8 is a weird. It's weird.
The T8 marches to a different drummer. Yeah, you have to be. You have to be into that sort of thing.
I would not pick the BMW because have you guys all gotten M Sports as your press cars too?
Yeah.
Yes. A lot of M Sports lately.
Yeah, because the M Sport suspension is so rough.
It is rough. But then I would, in this conversation, I would argue that I'm not the biggest fan of, like, the last S60 that we had was the R design suspension. I wasn't a fan of the way Volvo tuned that one. But generally speaking, like the way that the Volvo has tuned their suspensions generally speaks to me. I'm okay with the slightly softer thing that doesn't handle as well. Big caveat there. Does not handle as well. Big asterisk-y comment there.
And plus the engine in the BMW sounds way better.
Sounds
than
great, right? Sounds great. You have to be the like I've always said, like Volvo is the car. If you're a country club person, you know, you drive up in the Subaru or the Acura or the Toyota, and the people at the country club are going to be like, "What's wrong? Did you did your trust fund fall through the floor? Were you not sufficiently hedged in the coronavirus case?" But if you pull up in the Volvo, they're going to be like, "Oh, he's probably just like a professor at the local community college or something. He wears, cardigans. He's got the button-up thing going on, but he's okay. He's one of us, in that sort of quirky way." It's like you're in the club. You're in the club, but you're like the pragmatic-y kind of club owner.
Alex, you know that Volvo has moved on beyond the 240 DL, right? Like there are more exciting.
But it's still, and hey, I've owned multiple Volvos, mind you. I had a V70R just like you guys did. But that's still the Volvo logic. It's like you got 400 horsepower, but oh boy, does it not get applied the same way as anybody else's 400 horsepower. Because you can get torque steer and oversteer at the same time, and I dare you to find that in any other.
That's why it's weird. And that's why it's weird, and that's why I don't like it.
Yes. Like, if you have a T8 and you're in a parking lot, crank the wheel one way or the other and just floor it, and you'll get both torque steer and oversteer at the same time.
Okay, so what about the rest of the segment? So A4, S4, C-Class, Model 3,
E70.
IS? What are you feeling in terms of that entire segment? What would you go for?
When we start adding in the rest of the vehicles, I would probably lean toward S5 Sportback. and
Really?
Model 3. I would lean toward those for sure, because I love the way the S5 looks and with the engine it's got.
S5's look, but the engine's in the wrong place.
It's straddled over the front axle.
Yeah, it should be.
Just get the Tesla and have no engine then.
I actually liked the new C300, the refresh C300, a lot more than I thought I would.
I would do Model 3 all day long if it fits your lifestyle. Like if you have a place to charge it up overnight consistently, I would do Model 3. I really do.
Because Tommy, we were in California driving the S4, and we did the video together, and we both were saying like, oh, this is a really fun car. It's fast, but the Model 3 has ruined it for us. It's absolutely ruined it. It's changed the way what we expect a sports sedan and how it performs.
Who's our resident Volkswagen expert here? We have a super chat question from Peter asking Volkswagen Sport Wagon. Compare 2017 1.8 to the 2019 1.4.
Wow, what a question!
I'll answer that.
Yeah,
I'll take the 1.4 to be honest.
I like the 1.4 as well.
I'll take the 1.4. I would take the 1.4 because you get better fuel economy. It's not that much slower, to be honest.
Right.
Mind you,
and if anybody's good at making small turbocharged engines,
right.
Volkswagen is really good at it.
Yes, exactly. And then it's got the 8-speed.
Yeah, that's true.
So I've got another super chat question here.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually a good super chat question. Ryan C is asking, couple with no kids and they want to see a CUV that is somewhat fun to drive for under 45 grand. Reliability is important. They're looking at the Outback, Highlander, Passport. Are there any others that they should look at?
CX-5.
CX-5, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's CX-5, but they're asking Highlander, so
They said they have no kids, so I think no kids. So they don't really need the third row in the Highlander. But then Toyota doesn't have a Venza right now.
Right. I might Santa Fe if they want a little extra room, but I would if reliability is the key concern, I would avoid anybody's CVT. So that kind of rules out Subaru for long-term reliability. Because it also depends how long they plan. If like warranty period ownership, totally fine. Get the CVT. If you Subaru's long-term reliability metrics so far are still below Toyota's. So if that is like your absolute limit, then Toyota. And if you're willing to go like one semi-step down, then a Hyundai Kia product, but I probably wouldn't go too much further.
I mean, if you want, just pure out balls to the wall for the drive, like Edge ST is probably the most fun in kind of that mid-size.
Yeah, but if reliability is your shtick, would you Edge ST?
Well, I'm just gonna glance past that part.
I'd say if they want to stick with Toyota, they should look at the RAV4 Prime that's coming out.
That's a good one. RAV4 Prime looks very tasty.
Well, there was also a lot of people were asking in the comments here, what's the status with the RAV4 Prime? Have you guys heard anything about a media drive? Because we were supposed to get that car.
Right. So my questions have gone not quite answered at Toyota. But it was my understanding from what I did get back was that the press drive was not going to be until fall or winter anyway. So it may or may not be delayed.
So I actually got an answer from Toyota as well, Alex. Let me see.
What did they tell you?
Let me go back here. So, hold on. Looking at this email. So apparently they're supposed to be heading the national media program was slated for mid-June with a July 1st embargo. Final decision on how we'll handle that hasn't been made yet, but they'll know something in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So my guess is maybe they'll just show up in the press suite and they'll probably just do a virtual thing online.
On sale still probably late this year.
Yeah, I think it was scheduled for on sale fall, but the media drive was supposed to be in the summertime. So
interesting question. I know we can't talk about driving impressions yet, and Alex hasn't gotten his hands on one yet, but do you think that Toyota's going to be successful with the four-cylinder Supra?
Wait, sorry, say again, Tommy.
Do you think Toyota's going to sell the four-cylinder Supra? Do you think that's going to be a big seller for them, or do you think it's going to be a car people are going to glance over?
I don't think the Supra's ever going to be a big seller because it's a two-door coupe.
Well, relative to the Supra sales potential, do you think that people are going to
It's not going to sell like any of the previous gen Supras because coupes are just on this downward trend over time. So it's never going to be any of the previous gen.
Look at Alex. He's always so logical with his answer.
Logical.
So Tommy,
nobody buys fun cars anymore.
So Tommy, when I was driving the four-cylinder Supra last week, the beauty about that car is nobody knows that it's the 4-cylinder, really. Like
Right.
I was getting just as many like people thumbs upping me, waving, like freaking out over that car as I drove by them. They had no idea it was the 4-cylinder, and I honestly think a lot of people will cross shop it with Mustang and Camaro 4-cylinder and stuff. Of course, it's going to come down to the price, which we don't know the price yet. But I really think, because I mean, let's look at the competitors. I mean, you could upgrade from your 86 and BRZ into that. It's a much faster car, way more torque. And then you could also look at the Mustang EcoBoost and the Camaro 2-liter turbo, which they have more horsepower than the Supra, but we all know that they're also heavier. We all know that BMW underrates their engines anyway. The Supra is a way cooler car. It's going to get you way more looks. It's going to be a better handling car as well. So I think the 4-cylinder is going to do well for enthusiasts. And I think I think Toyota said that they decided to do a 4-cylinder for the enthusiast crowd. It's basically the car for people who want to do a 2JZ swap in that thing.
So I don't know that maybe Stefan knows this, but in Europe, I know the vast majority of Mustang sales are the V8s. Like nobody in Europe drives the little EcoBoost. It's huge percentage toward the V8. I don't know what the breakdown is, but it's vastly toward the V8. And in the US, I'm not quite sure, if that's similar. But if this Supra, like the 4-cylinder, ends up being 40-45 grand, do you really think that someone would go for a 4-cylinder Supra over like a V8 Mustang?
Well, look at the Mustang EcoBoost though. Like, so the performance package Mustang, like that's the one that has 330 horsepower. I built one up to be like 45 grand.
But that's silly. Yeah. Why wouldn't you just get a V8 car? Why wouldn't you just
get a V8? Yeah, I have to agree with that.
I do like the balance of the EcoBoost Mustang. It does have a nice weight balance to it, but I also have to admit the V8 sounds great. Like I don't know why you would V8. Like it's like, did you prefer the finesse or do you just want the V8 noise? And the Mustang is like V8 noise machine. So like,
so Alex, when Keith gets here, you should ask him why he bought a Mustang EcoBoost 4 years ago.
Oh, I completely understand it. I completely understand it. But like at the same time, I think if I were going to get it, I'm a relatively pragmatic person usually, and if I were to get it, I probably would lean towards the EcoBoost initially, but I don't know if when I signed on the line, I don't know if V8. I would end up with it. I think I would probably have V8'd. I don't know.
Like if
here's an interesting question here, a super chat person. So thanks to Gulnara, Nissan, this is an interesting one that I think we're going to have to dispel a bit of it because it says Nissan putting the 9-speed from Frontier and Titan and ditching the CVT in the 2021 Pathfinder. Is this a smart move for sales?
I didn't know they were doing that.
I don't like the rumor. I know the rumor this is based on. Car Scoops had something on this. I think the rumor is completely bunk because in the rumor, they're saying that the new Pathfinder will be a modified version of the current D platform, which is the rumor mill that I've heard from everything else. D platform's front wheel drive, so 9-speed automatic's not going to fit. So that's not going to fit. Now, if they are stepped automaticing and they're 9-speeding, they're probably going to buy someone's 9-speed. And unless it's the GM one, I would say that the ZF 9-speed is not going to be fabulous for them. So my guess is still CVT. That's my guess.
It's funny, like, every other generation of the Pathfinder's body on frame, right? So the first one was
That's true.
You think they're going to continue that?
But what do they have? I mean, I guess they could Frontier it.
Or Navara. Right? They could Navara it too. If the new Frontier ends up being on the Navara
platform. Have we seen any spy shots of
from what I've heard with the new Frontier is going to be heavily modified. It's going to have parts from the current car. I don't think it's going to be a Navara. So because Navara is, I don't think they've homologated Navara for North America.
Right.
And
to be honest, I wish they would do Navara.
Here we go. We're seeing. I've found a spy shot for the 2021 Pathfinder, and it definitely looks front wheel drive. It has a very large front overhang and a very short dash to axle ratio.
That's disappointing.
So I'm gonna guess still transverse engine.
Yeah,
I think. I think you're going to be right, Alex. But I think there potentially could be a market if they went body on frame and more off-roady because,
I agree.
Xterra, and with the incoming Bronco, potentially there could be a
and there's the
rumor. The question is, does Nissan have the money for this?
That's the question.
That's the big question.
Wasn't there a rumor mill that Xterra was coming back too?
And we do have rumor mills that like Rogue is still continuing with CVT as well. So I would be surprised if Pathfinder went away from CVT because they're going to use a Jatco transmission. I mean, Nissan does not use anybody else's transmission, with the exception for just the random Toyota hybrid that they licensed at one point. So unless somehow Jatco licenses somebody else's transmission and produces it, it's not going to happen. And Jatco doesn't make stepped front-wheel drive automatics anymore.
So I want to go on to my next topic here that I wanted to talk about. So I have the X3M this week with that new engine, and I want to hear what your guys' thoughts are with these fast SUVs and if they're worth it. If you think people are trading in their like M3s or C63s for a GLC 63 or an X3M.
According to the manufacturers, mind you, Mercedes specifically, BMW a little bit more anecdotally, because they don't want to talk about sales splits within the segment. Yeah, people are definitely trading in their sports car for their sports SUV.
I feel like it's a natural progression of the muscle car, right? I mean, the muscle car in the 60s, 70s was a super high performance family car, but back then the family car was a Pontiac Le Mans that they turned into a GTO. So if the family car is an X3, why not make a GTO X3? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, what I love about the X3M, for example, it's kind of stealthy. Like yes, it has the big wheels and tires. It's got the quad exhaust. But if you're not an enthusiast, you could look at that thing and just go, oh, look, it's another, garden variety X3 with a 4-cylinder turbo.
Competition, Sophian?
Yeah, it's the competition in that Donington gray with the black and tan seats. It looks absolutely stunning. Like, I think the wheels are my favorite part about that car. And it gets to 60 in like 3.5 seconds with the launch control. It's absolutely ridiculous. And when you put it into like the M2, like with the four-wheel drive system in sport, it will drift. It will actually let the tail step out. And I'm just kind of like, this thing drives like an M3 that's just taller. It's blowing my mind.
It's bonkers what they've done with it, because I drove it last year and it's mind-boggling. It just makes you, it's just making you question, like, how the hell is this thing breaking the rules of physics? It's so tall. It's like doing all these power slides and just going ham.
I will say that the ride quality in that X3 is awful. Like, there's a comfort setting in the dampers, and I was laughing when I saw it because I put it in comfort, and literally the suspension settings are firm, hard, and very hard. I was just like, where's the comfort setting? This thing is just gonna break my back. Yeah, it's not actually comfortable. I'll be curious to drive the regular X3 though or the regular X3M with the 20-inch wheels. The 21s really hurt the ride quality of that thing.
So I've driven the X3 M40i as well. I've taken it up Angeles Crest as well. Definitely that one rides better. And it's fairly fun. It's definitely fair. It's fairly fun for what you get out of that.
Tommy, we were at the media drive for the X4 and X3M last June, I think. What were your thoughts on that thing?
Yeah, this is where Alex is going to completely disagree with me, because this is like a total enthusiast perspective and it doesn't make any sense. But as fun as those cars are, as quick as they are, I still feel a lot more special behind the wheel of like an M3 and M4. Like it feels a lot.
I agree with you there. You
know what I mean? So even though like the X3M makes a whole lot of sense from an enthusiast standpoint, I'd probably go M3 if I had the money. But keep in mind, if you live in a snowy environment or if you live anywhere where you need all-wheel drive, like X3, X4M is going to be the best option. I like the V8 and the GLC more, though. I really like.
I was gonna say that here's the question. So would you GLC 63S or X3M?
Ooh, X3.
I think the GLC is ugly though. The S model, it's that coupe version. I think.
Yeah, it's ugly. Exactly. That's the reason why. X3 because of that.
Yeah.
Or actually, here's one. I'll instead of X3. Let's just take it one step crazier and just go with a Stelvio Quadrifoglio. I mean, we're talking about cars that aren't really.
See, I love the Stelvio, but it's
going to be broken all the time.
That's it. The check engine light came on that one I had. Like I floored it. I did the launch control in it, and then the check engine light came on. I was like, come on!
But it is so much fun
when it works.
Yes.
I would honestly.
It's also less expensive because you could Stelvio Quadrifoglio and have a 328i for regular days.
Because I'm an American, I would probably just go a class higher and do like Grand Cherokee SRT Trackhawk or Durango.
I would probably do that too, because the Trackhawk is crazy. Oh my god, that thing is bad crap.
But they don't.
No, they don't. They do not handle well. but you're never going to take any of these on a track. So you just at the stoplight, and you just floor that puppy and beat everything off the line.
We've taken the Quadrifoglio. We've taken this Sylvie Quadrifoglio on track, and it was quicker than a lot of cars on Laguna Seca.
Yes.
I'm a little disappointed in the Explorer ST and Edge ST. I think they should have done more.
Yes. Well, they couldn't,
especially the Edge ST.
Yeah, this is kind of a more on the technical side. So like Edge ST, they couldn't, because there is no transverse transaxle other than the Mercedes-Benz ones that are used on the 2-liter turbo, the DCTs, that can handle that much power. So like pretty much nobody's front-wheel drive transaxle can handle, honestly, more than about 300 pound-feet of torque-ish. So like when you take a look at Edge ST, 0 to 60 times are really no better than Grand Cherokee, which is crazy heavy, right? And that's why like Explorer gained so much time over the previous generation Explorer in the current generation, because it went to a rear-wheel drive transmission that could handle the power. And like you look at like Lincoln Continental with the 400 horsepower engine, it's slower than Kia K900, which has less horsepower, less torque supposedly, and heavier. But the reason is that with all those vehicles, the front wheel drive transaxle, they have to limit torque severely in the first few gears, and definitely throughout certain speed ratios in higher gears. So like, yes, somehow, sometime it may produce 400 horsepower, 400 pound-feet of torque. Certainly not going to do it in the 0 to 30.
So I would love to drive like some of the German SUVs, like the diesels, the M50D, like the X5.
Yes, that would be fun.
3 or 4 turbos on them. I think that would be so much fun.
So there's a question here that builds on what we've been talking about with these fast SUVs. Drew McReynolds asks, "What are our thoughts on the RS Q8?" I have not driven that yet. Have you guys driven that?
Not me.
Not actually. It does look fun though, but the engine's still in the wrong place.
You were hating with Audis and how they're front drive bias or engines.
There goes Alex.
No. Not front wheel drive bias. No. This is a common message. Not front wheel drive bias. Front heavy. Just front heavy.
That's why they understeer.
It is why they understeer.
I will say,
I'm just super excited to drive the RS6 Avant. That's the Audi that I'm waiting for.
They're good-looking cars. I like the Audi look though, except for the fake exhaust tips. I like the interior and the exterior, and they sound nice. Fake exhaust tips, kind of negative. And if you are in this and it's like, if it's not an SQ model, if it's not an S model, or an RS model, then the engine placement totally fine. Who gives a crap, right? But if you're going after performance and you're trying to be, the next level in performance, and you have a funky weight balance, then that's a problem. But like if you're Q7ing, it doesn't matter. Q5ing, it doesn't matter. Q3's tons of fun. I love it. But like if you're S5 or S6 or S8 and your engine's a little bit too far in front of the front axle, and you've got 56 to 60% of your weight, same weight balance as a Honda Accord, that's dynamically a problem in that segment where your competition isn't.
Sofian, I'm really terrified that RS6 Avant's going to go the way of the CTS-V wagon. It's the car that all the journalists are waiting for.
No.
500 people bought them.
So I have emailed Audi a few times because I was like, so what's the deal with RS Q8? I want to drive that RS6 Avant. Apparently, because I'm literally in their by their headquarters. Their headquarters in DC here is like 30 minutes from me. And unfortunately, Audi has told me that they have suspended press loans until further notice. I'm so sad. I'm so sad about that.
So on the topic of fast SUVs, how do we feel about the X2 M35i and the Mini Countryman JCW now that they both have 300 horsepower?
I love the X2. The M230, the M35i X2 is a lot of fun. It's literally
Mercedes, Mercedes
it's like if you wanted a hot hatch. It's like a grown-up hot hatch when I drove that X2 M35, and I think it looks good. So I would definitely go with the X2 M35i.
And BMW had to do it really because XC40 T5 was faster than X2. So BMW had to have a hold my beer moment and jam something more in there. You can't. BMW absolutely cannot have a Volvo being faster. That would be wrong.
The issue with the Mini is just get the Clubman. I mean, it's not like it's that much higher off the ground than the the Clubman is looks better. I think it's got pretty similar amount of storage capacity. Just get the Clubman, the JCW.
Really, I don't like the way the Clubman looks in the back with the split tailgate.
The split barn doors bother me.
It
barn
bothers
doors,
me.
yeah,
Like
I'm not a barn door fan. I got stuck in the back of a barn door. I got stuck in the back of a barn door Mini once. I tried to open them. I was in there doing my trunk test, which I don't do anymore. But I was trying to get out, and the doors, they unlatched from the car, but they wouldn't unlatch from each other, so I couldn't get out. And it was embarrassing.
They're cool.
Mind you, one of those barn doors were spring loaded. My mom didn't know she was right next to it. Almost whacked her right out.
Ooh.
Oh,
They're a terrible solution, but they're really cool.
So Nihar, kind of in the same vein here. Nihar super chatted. Thanks for the super chat, and is asking, have you seen the new Ford wagon prototype? What are your thoughts? Do you think there will ever be a Lincoln version?
Wagon.
What wagon prototype?
The Courier that's disguised as a wagon. I think that
because
that could be. Let's see here. Let's see if we can Google this.
Because that's got to be a Courier. That's got to be the Courier. But and speaking of,
I think they're talking about the new Ford Fusion, which was a lifted wagon style thing.
Oh, that. Outback
competitor.
I have not seen that yet.
There's that combination rumor that there may be like an Outback style thing that will take over the Fusion name. That like Fusion sedan would drop, and we'd have like a lifted wagony thing in its place.
Yeah,
which would be logical because they could sell it as the Mondeo in Europe.
Oh, I see which one it is now. Yeah, it's the spy shot of this one is the one that is basically a new Ford Focus all Frankenstein.
Right. It's like a Frankenstein Ford Focus all-road thingy. Yeah. I mean, it kind of looks a little Volvo-y actually in the back, but then this is a really rough prototype.
Did any of you get to drive the new?
Do you think that they would try and make a Lincoln version? That would be. I don't know what they would. I don't know if that would fit with Lincoln somehow.
Yeah. What were you gonna say, Tommy?
Has anyone driven the new Cayenne Coupe?
No, I was supposed to,
but it got
we were supposed to be at the media drive, and I've been emailing Porsche to try to get the car here, but they haven't responded back. So.
Stefan, have you driven it?
No, unfortunately, I've only driven a standard Cayenne.
Yeah, I think it looks great. I think it's cool.
Tommy. There was actually a question here I wanted to go back to. Tommy, did you guys drive the X5M? Because I have not driven that. A lot of people were asking if we'd driven that, considering we were talking about fast SUVs. Stefan, Alex, have you guys?
Okay, coming up. I drove it at a dealer very, very briefly before, and I've had the previous generation. Let's see, when is it coming up? I can talk about my future coming cars if anybody's interested. Yeah. So we have a Q60C Red Sport, because I'm actually always intrigued by the Q60 Red Sport. I think it's entertaining.
It's a beautiful car.
It's beautiful. I don't know if I'd buy it because nobody buys them. But then we have an X5M, a Charger SRT Hellcat, the CLA 35, X3 X-Drive 30E, the plug-in, Seltos Turbo, the 228i sedan. Sedan, the X500X Trekking, the Cooper SE hardtop, and then if I look at this other one, we also have a Hyundai Venue Genesis G90 after it has come back from having a deer accident.
That poor thing.
And then we just had the Highlander hybrid. Then we're also going to have the non-hybrid Highlander.
Okay, so Alex, what video are you working on to post next?
We have a bunch up. Let me see what Alex is working on. We just did Silverado diesel, which was lovely. We also have RAV4 TRD off-road coming, Mercedes-Benz GLB 250, which I liked an awful lot more than I thought I would, I have to admit. RAV4 NX versus NX hybrid, which I think Lexus is not going to like so much. And then we have our RAV4 hybrid towing torture test.
Interesting. So yeah, to build on your Lexus versus Toyota video, I actually did a video with the new RX against the new Highlander. So I don't know if Lexus is going to like that one either, because the new Highlander has gotten really, really nice. And then tomorrow we've got a video posting on Lexus and their sales and how they've been kind of going up and down and how their product lineup is in need of a refresh. So that's a video that people have been asking me to watch. So that video will post tomorrow around 9:45 a.m. But we're going to talk about all of Lexus's sales. But it actually brings me to my next topic on April sales, because some manufacturers have just started releasing their sales figures and it doesn't look good.
Share them with us. Share them.
So I saw that Hyundai and Genesis reported that their sales were down roughly 39% for Hyundai and almost 50% for Genesis. Only Tucson managed to sell nearly as well as they did back in 2019, and Kia was roughly around 38% down.
I have Mazda's numbers here. Mazda was down 44.5%.
Wow, yeah.
Everything is down.
And
their best seller is still CX-5.
Yep. But then I see Toyota also, their sales fell about 54% for both Toyota and Lexus. So that actually goes back to my Lexus sales video, because Lexus used to be like number one, and then in 2011, BMW and Mercedes surpassed them. So I have a lot more.
Why do you think they surpassed them? What happened?
So I go into it in the video, but basically I think that they got surpassed because Lexus, they used to be, I mean, they're still very much considered tier one, but their products don't stand out in the way that they used to. I mean, sure, they've got excellent reliability and build quality, but how long can you sell a car just on that merit alone? Like, especially when you're spending that kind of money. Like that RX that I had, was $65,000, and the car that's going to really. No, it was the RX, the 450 HL, which the L is the worst version to get for the RX, but the car that's going to really give that Lexus a fight is that Genesis GV80 that's coming out.
Yeah.
It's going to also be $65,000. It's got a twin turbo 6. It's got a really nice interior. The outside looks like a Bentley, which, by the way, Genesis got back to me. They said that the media drives for those were supposed to be in mid-summer, and that they are going to be sending out they're going to be doing some kind of like a virtual first drive, and then they'll send people out the cars sometime in the summer.
So GV80 and G80 are supposed to follow one another, and then October should be GV70 for a reveal.
Oh, October. Yeah. Okay.
Genesis has
some good stuff.
In my head, I also think that I think that some of Lexus's problem has been that they haven't exploded their lineup in the same way that BMW and Mercedes have. I mean, it's like Mercedes now has 4 entry-level models, which is mind-blowing. How do we have GLA and GLB and CLA and A? Like, oh my gosh. And then you've got coupe-ified SUVs and regular SUVs and coupes and wagons and crossover. It's like, oh my, how many more things can we do? And Lexus is stuck with, ISGS, whatever, NX, RX, etc.
And partially, I think it's their approach in general, because they're pretty conservative in the way they do things at Lexus, and it's just the way Toyota works. And I interviewed one of their marketing folks at the refreshed RX reveal here in LA, I think it was early last year. Yeah, they're not planning to do that whole cut through niches and stuff like that. They're just sticking to their guns and sticking with solid,
Yeah, and Mercedes wants to find every niche available.
Same with BMW.
BMW as well.
You want a subcompact 7-seat crossover? We'll build you one.
So there's a super chat question here that goes with our Lexus Toyota chat. Alexander Wilson asks, do you think Toyota will ever update the Tundra, Land Cruiser, and 4Runner? That's coming in 20. Yeah, 20. I think Alex 2023 is what I think they said. Right?
Those are the last ones to get, and from what I'm hearing, Toyota
should be the first.
Yeah, Tundra's supposed to be the first, and that's supposed to get a hybrid V6 twin turbo.
Yeah.
I don't think the Land Cruiser is going to come stateside. I really don't.
No.
I don't think so either, because the Lexus version outsells it 2 to 1.
Yeah, they sell 3,000 Land Cruiser.
Yeah. They've claimed, I mean, it always could be a vanity thing, to be perfectly frank. So they could come just because of brand vanity. Yeah. I mean, that's the only reason we have K900 or Cadenza is because Kia says we need the flagship thing. I mean, they sell, Cadenza sold 400 last year, something like that. K900 sold 250. So
I bet you it outsold Acura RLX still.
It still did.
Possibly, yeah.
But I would not be surprised, and I hope that Toyota brings the Land Cruiser here still, because for those Land Cruiser fans, I think it's essential that there's another run.
It needs to be like a Wrangler competitor, though. The Land Cruiser, if it comes back, it needs to be far less expensive, more off-road capable, less luxurious. I think.
I've heard that it will be less luxurious.
If you guys are curious, here are the sales for K900 year to date: 77 units.
Yep. It is one of the rarest cars on the road. If you want a rare car, it undersells NSX, McLaren 720.
But you know what?
It's
I was
insane.
thinking about the K9. So when I had the G90 last week, I was thinking about the K900 because it's like 10 grand less than the G90, and the interior. So that Genesis, the interior is nice, but I think the Kia's interior is nicer because it has the customizable LED lighting. It has like that tablet screen. It has the full digital dash. I don't understand.
It's the tricky Hyundai Kia thing, because remember they do the TikTok thing. So current G90 is the refreshed version of the previous one, but the current K900 is the all new one in that lineup. So like they flip flop. So like right now Forte is the newest iteration of that platform, but then Elantra will get the newest iteration when it goes out.
Yeah, and K900 is actually a shorter wheelbase car.
Yeah, so it's like short wheelbase G90.
Yeah, and that's all. And basing on that TikToking thing, that's the newest version of the rear drive platform that came first with the Stinger, and then the G70, and then that K900. But what the GV80 and the G80 have is the newest one. So
yeah, so like when G90 comes out, when the new G90 finally comes out, it will definitely leapfrog that one, and the new G80 should also leapfrog it in quality. But like that's definitely the thing you see within Hyundai, the Hyundai Kia envelope is like currently out. Optima is behind because Sonata's new, and then Optima will then land. And it seems like within the Hyundai Kia envelope, they like the internal competition too. So like they're each manufacturer is able to take the newer thing and apply it. Like I haven't talked about this on publicly, but I loved when the K900 came out, the president of Hyundai North America hopped in the front seat and was swearing up a storm. I can't bleep and believe that Kia was allowed to build this darn thing. I can't believe that they were allowed to go first and whatever. And like, why should they be able to bring this to America? And I'm like, oh my, things you hear at auto shows. But that just seems to be the way they work. Like Venue is the latest interpretation of that platform.
Yeah.
At some point you'll see that, radiate downward. And
then another step forward is going to be Kona N. So which is going to be a new version of whatever is underneath Veloster N and all that stuff. So plus 8-speed DCT.
Do you think G90 is gonna work for him? Work for the brand?
I think it will, because G90 sales actually have been okay.
They were actually up. They've been up this year ever since the new one went on sale. So it's the only vehicle in the Genesis lineup which actually has sales growth right now. So
right.
I mean, I honestly hated the way that car looks when I saw it on the auto show floor, but when they dropped it off at my house and I saw it like in person, like in the real world, I actually thought it looked cool. I was just like, it looks very different. It's so comfortable, and at $76,000, you get a naturally aspirated 5-liter V8. Which the only other luxury sedan you can get a naturally aspirated V8 in is Lexus GSF. That's it. Everything else has gone to a turbo. It really
is the Lexus LS for someone that wants that classic
way less
LS.
expensive. It's 15 grand less than the LS 500 that I had a couple of months ago.
It's the classic LS shopper.
That car just reminds you why you love a V8 in a big sedan.
But like, remember that 2018 and 2019 sales numbers were all caught up in the whole Genesis dealer debacle. But like 2017, they sold 4,400 G90s, which for that segment is not bad because that's way above Jaguar. And Lexus LS was a little bit down in 2017 because some of their model refresh things. Obviously, it outsold G90, but I'm trying to remember who else is in this large segment. Like it outsold Quattroporte, Jaguar XJ. It outsold A8.
Jaguar XJ. I hope it would outsell that.
Tommy, what is up with your hair? You look like you've been outside with the wind blowing.
That's horrible. I have been outside with the wind blowing. We have so many cars at the office right now. I've been shooting nonstop for the last.
Yeah. What are you guys working on? What's posting next for TFL?
We have some interesting stuff. We have this thing called the Loveland Trial where we drive from here in Boulder, 75 miles up to the
That's right. I think your dad mentioned that.
Yeah.
As well.
And we're doing it in the CX or CRV hybrid, RAV4 hybrid.
That's right.
Yep. And then I know. And then sorry, my dad's talking to me. We also bought another Mini actually. My dad liked mine, so he bought a 2013 GP, and it showed up on the truck, and it was not as advertised, and it's a total disaster.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so we got that video coming up too.
Okay.
but
I'll be looking forward to that one.
Yeah, we have both Supras. We've got the Cooper SE, the electric Mini. We have the CX-5 and the Palisade right now. So we're kind of
you guys are busy. Jesus. Well, at least you have a lot of people to do that. Because if Alex, you had 4. I've had 4 at once, and it's not fun.
No, especially when my videographer for social distancing realities, my videographer and editor, they're not in the office, so it's like, you know, I'm on my own.
How about you, Stefan?
Okay.
What are you working on this week? What do you have in the driveway?
So I've got Civic Si, and then I go back to my new long-termer next week, which is the 228i Gran Coupe. So
I have not driven that yet.
That's what we have. We have that coming up soon.
I've got a bunch of stuff coming up for that because I have a year with that car, and man, this car is challenging my head to come up with what to write about it because it is so. It's such a car. It's a car that splits opinions everywhere you go.
Yeah,
and even now we're social distancing. It's like I've gotten so many questions about that car. People just coming up like 6 feet away from me, like asking me, what the heck is this? What BMW is this? So yeah, we've got that, and then we've also got a bunch of other stories coming up.
Does anybody seem to be offended by it being front-wheel drive? Because I was shocked that there was that, there was that recent survey somewhere a few years ago. Remember that a bunch of people already thought that BMWs were front-wheel drive anyway?
Yeah, really? They thought their 1 Series were front-wheel drive.
Yeah. So like, does anybody seem to care?
Like the non-car, the ones that I can tell that weren't non-car people didn't really mind. What offended them was the fake grill.
Okay.
Because when you look into the grill, you're like, is this a grill shutter or is this just like covered up in the back? So I think it's fake. Like I'm not sure if it opens up, but I'm gonna have to like.
But is that more or less appealing than a fake exhaust?
At least this one you can't see from afar, because a fake exhaust you can see from like 10 miles away. So, but yeah, other than that, for the car people though, one time I took it up Angeles Crest and a couple other winding roads and ran into a bunch of car guys with older BMWs, E46s mainly, and when I told them that it was front wheel drive based, they kind of freaked out and said, "Yeah, this is just an oversized, an overblown / guzzied up Mini or something around those lines." So it's been polarizing opinions everywhere I go with it. So
it makes me wonder if if that's gonna be the opinion, but then BMW is just gonna laugh all the way to the bank, because that's what Mercedes has been doing with their.
I think BMW is gonna laugh at the bank all the way to the bank, because I've already seen a few here.
Because Tommy, your dad said he thought that the GLB was one of the best cars he drove this last year. What do you think? What do you think of the GLB? I was honestly shocked how much I liked the GLB.
I loved it. I would get it over like a GLC, a GLA. I think it's a really good little car.
Would you buy the third row?
Why not? I mean, if you need for the 1% of the time you need the third row, it's going to come in really handy. If you'd have to custom order it, it'd be like, just get the one on the lots. But something about being it like a big shoebox means it's really useful.
Yeah.
Really I think it looks better too than the
way it looks is really nice. The way it looks is just, it's got presence.
I'm waiting for the AMG version. That's what I'm waiting for.
Will be amazing.
It's going to have the 35. So
and a 45 we're hearing.
Huh.
Alex, can we talk about the yellow on your CLA?
That was epic. I loved the yellow. I love the wacky colors on press cars because they film so well. I don't know if anybody's ever going to buy a Nissan in orange, but that orange that Nissan is shipping every press car practically is epic.
Yeah,
Accentra is a really good looking car with the orange and the two-tone.
We had the Maxima too, and the Maxima two-tone was orange and black. That was good.
All right, so Sophian, of all the new colors available on all the new cars, what's the best color on what car?
We really put me on the spot on that one. You know what I actually really love? Every BMW that I send, the one color that I wish they would send me is that blue, Tanzanite blue.
Like it's a color?
It's a $2,000 option. It's like the most deep, luscious shade of dark royal blue.
How do you spell it?
Tanzanite blue or something like that.
How about you? What do you think the best color is?
Yeah, that is a good blue.
Oh man, that's hard.
I like that. I like BMW's aqua color too.
Oh, that's good too. Yeah.
Mine.
Yeah,
Let's see, mine. It's pretty hard because I would probably go for. Oh God. I would probably go for that green on the RS5.
If I can. Yeah, it's like
ooh. Yeah, that's pretty pretty
that
too.
color car. I
Oh,
like
that green is so good.
That like
green
aqua
in the-
thing.
Remember that green on that RS5 they had, or was it an RS5 at the like that dark green? they've got
Yes.
going on? Oh,
Yeah, that was. I love how green is making a comeback. Like when
Yeah.
Blake told me he wanted the green Outback, I was kind of like, really green, but it's grown on me. I like the autumn green now, even though like the nori green when I had that on the Lexus, I was like, I kind of want to see that color on the Subaru. The nori.
Speaking of
Mazda's-
wacky colors.
Mazda's Soul Red is good too.
Yes.
It's a little over. I've seen it so many times now. It's a pretty
It
red,
still
but
looks good. Still looks
it looks good. But I'm just kind of like I'm over it because
Like,
you see it all the time.
It's speaking of wacky colors, by the way. I've seen photos of Kona N spy shots where you can see the fenders and parts of the car. It looks like you can get it with baby blue body cladding.
Oh, interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like you're gonna be able to get it with baby blue body cladding and a different exterior color. So it's gonna, if we're gonna be talking about weird colors, that Kona N might take the cake because it might just come in some crazy colors.
So what's the
I
worst
like-
color? What's the worst color in any new car?
Anything. I'm not a fan of black, to be honest.
So any
Because
black
it-
color.
Yeah.
Any black car
cards,
because the swirl
scratches,
marks,
swirl marks,
and, like,
heat.
Yeah, and like you got to clean them before you film them. And this is a very pragmatic thing because we film cars for a living, obviously. But it's like anything that needs to be cleaned that much, anything that doesn't pop, I'm not a fan of. Like I like these. Nissan's orange has really grown on me a lot. I was really concerned about it at first, but it's grown on me a lot. I think that's their best color in their lineup. It avoids that sort of bloody pus color that like GM had in some of their orange cars. Yeah, I mean, like if you've ever had like a boil and you like, anyway,
Oh, God.
it was not an attractive color.
The Seltos yellow doesn't do it for me. I really like.
I'm okay
yellow.
with the yellow. I'm okay with the yellow in the Seltos somehow. Like colors that I hate are like Volvo. Volvo actually I think is the worst offender of this because you'll go to an event and they'll all be the same color and they'll all be bad. Like the XC90 launch, they were all black. Why are they all
Why would
black?
they do that?
Why are they all black? And then the XC60, they were all white. Why are they all white? Like the two worst colors you could have picked.
Alex, my favorite is when they have like 20 black ones and then one red one, and they're like, "Okay, go choose your car."
Oh, they fight for the red one. It's like, oh, you better call that like
What
at least
on
2
earth?
days before.
Yeah.
Here's one. Have you folks seen the Mazda's Deep Crystal Blue and BMW's Storm Bay Metallic?
Yes.
I've seen the deep crystal blue. It's a pretty blue. I do like the deep
Yeah.
crystal blue on Mazda.
Yeah, it's
I'm not a
really
fan
hard
of
to
Mazda's
clean
gray
too.
though. Oh, that's not good.
Oh. What do you guys
Yeah.
think of
I do
white
like
wheels?
BMW's
White
aqua.
wheels?
No.
White wheels, not for me.
Really, I
Thanks.
love
or
white
black.
wheels.
I don't like.
I like
black
I like
wheels
white
either.
wheels on the
Tommy,
Alfa.
see, you are an old soul in a 22-year-old's body. That's exactly who you are.
Dude, I like hubcaps. Hubcaps are brilliant.
Oh,
White walls.
oh
What
my
about white
God.
walls? What about white walls, Tommy?
No, I don't like white walls. But
Does
I like
your Subaru have white walls?
No, it has 13-inch white painted steel wheels. Wheels are too big. Why are
How
wheels
big are-
so big now?
How big are the drum brakes on that thing?
Hey, it's got front discs.
Oh,
They're like that
How-
big.
Oh
how
my
adorable! How adorable.
Yeah, I think the brakes on that X3M out there are probably bigger than the wheels on your Subaru, than like the tire size.
And I understand like the aesthetics of big wheels, but they lead to a lot of problems. You know what I
I
mean?
would agree. Curved
They do.
wheels, potholes, like bent rims, like they're
They
a pain
can't
in the
support
ass.
the weight either.
Yeah,
But
and
they
the
look
other-
good.
Too, like the G90, those crazy like wheel design with a little inner, a beautiful wheel. But imagine cleaning that thing. You know how
It
long?
is a
Yeah.
beautiful wheel. It is a beautiful wheel, but it was also beautiful on the 1999 Chrysler.
That's what I was gonna say. It's a throwback to the '90s and the '80s, and I hated it at first, and I still hate it now. So
The 1998
Sophia,
Town and Country and Chrysler LHS look great with those wheels on.
What
it.
about the wheel? I think it's like a 21 or a 22-inch wheel. The monoblocks on the AMG GT4.
Ooh.
Yes.
Remember we had that at the AVA program. I loved those wheels actually. I just
I
didn't love them
hated
on
them.
I didn't
my
love
God,
them on
they
that
looked
car.
bad.
Alex,
Those
why?
wheels were pretty.
Because a 1970s Rolls Royce called and they wanted their wheels back. They were so bad.
Well, anyways, on that note, I actually realized we've been live streaming for like almost 2 hours now, so I'm going to go ahead and end it on that note. But thank you all so much for your amazing questions. I hope we were able to get to a lot of them. Hope you all are staying safe out there, continuing to social distance for the last seven weeks. So I know we're all anxious to go out and travel again. So, but anyways, guys, thank you guys so much. We'll probably be back here next week around the same time. So everyone have a great weekend, and we'll all talk to you later then.
And thanks to all my streamers out there that are watching still. So we will attempt to have a live show in the middle of the week for the Alex and Autos crew, where we will be doing one of our giveaways because we have had that seriously delayed with the whole coronavirus outbreak. So if you want free stuff, then be sure and check your subscribe. There are jackets and mugs and, cutting. There's a cutting board for some reason. I don't know who gave us a cutting board. It's a cutting board if you want one. There's like 2 jackets, a Volkswagen jacket, a Toyota jacket. There's some headphones, some speakers, some Alex and Autos gear. There might even be one of these shirts that says that you were born without a personality.
I do love that shirt.
Ours, like VHS that worked its
we'll
way.
See. Yeah, there's also one that says, give it something, please, at least something. So there you go.
Awesome. Well, take care, everybody.
Our thing.
All right, guys. Bye. Bye, Stefan.
See y'all later. Bye.
Bye.